Well, here's an extraordinary thing. Ukraine was home to the biggest Jewish population in Europe before World War II, and at least 1.5 million of Ukraine's Jews were killed during the Holocaust. More than 9,900 Holocaust survivors were still living in Ukraine when Russia invaded just 3 weeks ago. They are, of course, old and frail now. It's very difficult for them to leave the country, especially if they're living in cities or zones that are under attack. Well, Julia Entin, whose grandfather was a Holocaust survivor, is coordinating efforts now to help get Holocaust survivors out of Ukraine. And Julia joins me via Skype from Los Angeles. Thanks very much indeed, Julia, for joining us. Just first of all, how many people are we talking about?
Well, your, I think, estimation is pretty right on point. It's roughly a little bit over 9,000 people. Unfortunately, not all survivors like to identify themselves as survivors, just like sometimes people of marginalized communities and LGBT communities wouldn't like, especially in a time of war, to identify themselves as such, because as history tells us, it's kind of like painting a target on yourself. So we're at this point trying to elevate the voices of the people that are the most marginalized. And fortunately, I've had the pleasure to do that through an organization I'm volunteering with, which is SafeBow. And it is a grassroots organization, right. And I am absolutely proud to represent it.
Can I ask you how many survivors of the Holocaust then you are at the moment actually able to help, to move, and to get out of wherever their dangerous spot would be?
SafeBow specifically has helped 8 Holocaust survivors get out of the country, and we have about 3 Holocaust survivors that we're helping within the country because not everyone is ready or able to leave.
No, it is very difficult to imagine what this must be like for someone who, frankly, so long ago went through such massive trauma and then finds it happening again. How do they cope?
As you can imagine, considering the promise of never again, it has been a difficult time for us all. For those that are children, grandchildren, and survivors themselves watching this from abroad, they are absolutely horrified, and I am not sure that they're able to fully take in the fate that has currently befallen them. And I feel a particular sense of shame having only been able to help them from here and not be directly with them. Although technology has made it significantly easier to provide supports to them, and we're able to constantly keep in contact and make sure that they're provided psychological support as well, as any kind of support that they request for medicine or food or water, whatever need that they may have.
Yeah, you certainly shouldn't feel shame at the efforts you're taking to help them. I just wondered, just talk me a little bit through the process of taking them to safety, because there are always going to be echoes of being bussed out of one place, supposedly to somewhere safe. And I'm afraid psychologically that must be a very difficult step to take for them.
I completely agree with you. It is quite terrifying. And that is why grassroots organizations like SafeBow take a slightly different approach. It's a more personalized approach. So the way that it looks like on the ground is, usually it is the relatives of these individuals that are able to reach out to grassroots organizations. And what the grassroots organizations try to do is they first try to establish a rapport. You always want to establish a rapport with a person that has lived through tremendous trauma. And you absolutely want to do everything in your power to prevent re-traumatization, which I am sure that they're currently experiencing. Yeah. So the people that we work with, such as taxi drivers, bus drivers, they're keenly aware of the general level of trauma that a person would go through the war, because they're the ones on the ground actually helping these people to get out. But what we do is a certain level of coordination and establishing the rapport to make sure that the people understand that they are amongst friends.
And being dealt with as individuals, of course. Well, Julia, thank you very much indeed for outlining the work you're doing. Julia Entin, thank you.